consumerism is destroying your life. One of the things that I value the most in my life is freedom. And I truly believe that freedom is good for everyone. But most people don't even know what freedom is. And coming here to the Balkans, right now I'm in Moldova. I live as a digital nomad, which means that I work online, I put my things on the backpack, and I move from one country to the other for as long as I want, to wherever I want, whenever I want. And that for me is the biggest expression of freedom that I could have in my life. But I don't mean that you should be traveling every day, every month, because that's what I want. And when I do what I want, I'm being free. If you don't want to be abroad and you start being abroad because I told you so, you're not being free. You are doing what somebody else told you to do. And that's what I want to talk about today. Because here in the Balkans, I noticed something that I also noticed growing up in Brazil. People are really worried about showing off to others. People are spending money they don't have with things they don't need to impress people who don't matter. And if you keep consuming, wasting on things that you really don't need, you end up having no money and no time for the things that actually matter in your life. Me, for example, I don't like clubs. I don't like going out at night. And what I like the most when I'm traveling is walking around, exploring. This park here is beautiful, and they only ask you like 70 cents of euros to get inside. It's like a maintenance fee that they ask, and I would gladly pay 10 times more because I really love this place. It's amazing. And it is a Thursday afternoon, no, actually Friday afternoon. I'm quite done with my job. I've done everything that I had to, and I have a lot of free time today. Tomorrow I'm going to Hungary, so I decided to come here one more time and take another walk, because it's a peaceful place. And no expensive car, no fancy restaurant would bring me so much joy as walking on this park on a Friday afternoon. Because on Sunday it's so crowded, because everybody works from Monday to Friday from 9 to 5. Everybody works at the same time, everybody rests at the same time, everybody goes to the same place on their summer vacation. And when you keep doing what everybody else is doing, you don't get the best that the place has for you. Because I've been here on Sundays and it's not like that. It's much better today. But it will only happen with you if you do different things from the other people. Because if you get a 9-to-5 job every single day, you're not going to experience freedom in your life. You're just going to experience tiny little amounts of freedom. Because if it's not complete freedom, it's not freedom. It's like a break. And it doesn't mean that people who live freely don't work. I like working. If I like working and I want to work, I'm expressing my freedom by working. Being free doesn't mean being a bum staying at home. This video here is not bringing me 1 cent. I'm doing this video because I want to. This is not a monetized channel. I have to monetize the channel in Portuguese to Brazilian audience. This one, it's not monetized. I'm not making money, at least right now. Maybe I will in the future, who knows. I'm doing this video because I want to share my message. I want to show this place. And I want to make content. That's my goal here. And that for me is freedom. And I've been to the UK and I learned a lot with them. Some things in the UK are excellent, some other things I really don't care about. Some things there are actually terrible. All the woke culture, it's a joke. But they are not consumerists. I learned with them that I was being a fool when I was all the time trying to show off the brands that I was wearing, because I grew up in Brazil. And Brazil, just like here in the Balkans, you have rich people and you have fucked up people with terrible income, living in terrible conditions. And in places like that, people are constantly trying to show up that they are in the biggest group, in the highest group, not in the inferior one. But in countries where everybody lives okay, nobody's worried about proving how much they make, because even those who make less, they still make enough. They still live in a decent neighborhood, they still eating decent food, having social life. And one thing that I learned is that, when I was like 20, 21, I was super proud of a Lacoste t-shirt that I had, Ray-Ban sunglasses. I was always talking about it and how much I paid on those. And when I got to the UK, I was like a clown for doing that. People were actually laughing at me whenever I said anything about that, because all of them can afford those things. So I was bragging about something that wasn't really expensive. It was expensive for a 21 years old guy from Brazil, but it was not expensive at all for 21 years old guys from the UK. So when you brag about something that is not a big deal, it only shows how broke you are, because you make a big deal out of a little thing, and only broken people do it. So by trying to convince people that I was well off, I was actually showing them I was the opposite. And then I learned with them that a Lacoste t-shirt only means something when half of the country or 90% of the country can't afford it. Once everybody can afford it, it has no meaning, because if everybody can, when you get one, it doesn't say anything. So I stopped caring about brands, I stopped caring about buying everything. I learned that I could simply rent or go with somebody who has it, let's say a car, let's say a boat. You don't have to buy everything, you don't have to own everything. I'm not saying that you don't have to own anything and you're gonna be happy, I don't believe that, but I believe that you have to own the things that really matter for you. And some other things you can just rent or get from someone in a friendly way, not in a Brazilian way. But anyways, once you stop spending your hard-earned money with things you don't need to impress people that you don't care about, you start saving money. And once you start saving money, that money starts working for you. And once this money starts working for you, then you have financial freedom. Then you can think about what you really want for life clearly, because you're not worried about your next paycheck because you don't rely on one. You're not worried how you're gonna pay rent, how you're gonna pay for food, because you have enough for many years. And that's part one of freedom. And part two is, if you think that you always have to do something full of dopamine, with lots of cameras, lots of flash, in your best clothes, in the best restaurants, with the best chefs, it's also a prison, because you would be surprised on how much richness there is in regular things, how much joy you can get by walking in the park, how much experience you're gonna have by going to a simple restaurant where a babushka cooked you a soup that she has been cooking like that for the past 45 years. That's a very rich experience. She has no idea what Le Cordon Bleu is or what a Michelin star is. She just knows that when she was growing up in Soviet Union, her babushka taught how to cook that way, and she grew up cooking that way. And now she's a babushka and she's teaching her granddaughter how to cook that way. That's cultural richness. And sometimes you get all this richness for 2 euros, 3 euros, 4 euros. So of course, if you feel like going to a fancy restaurant, go ahead. Money can buy that. Sometimes I go to nice places, sure. But if you rely on that, if your entire life is all about it, bro, you're not free. It's a prison. because there's a whole lot of world out there, outside of those restaurants, outside of those places that everybody go. And just walking around, which is my favorite thing when I'm traveling, will bring you a lot more joy, a lot more knowledge than going to the Instagrammable places that everybody go. That place that people go just for the photo. And you know what I'm talking about. There are so many places that people had never heard about before, but one influencer started going there, taking photos there, and now everybody wants to go there. And a lot of people, sometimes even you, start considering going there because everybody goes. And when you think harder, you realize you're going just for the picture, that you don't care about the place. A lot of people questioned me when I said I was going to be in Moldova for a month. There's nothing touristic there. There's no landmark. There's nothing so interesting. And I said, there is. There is a new culture, new people, a place that nobody knows much about, a place that you go on Google or YouTube and you find nothing about. So that's a lot for me, you know, that's a lot of excitement. You can easily find everything about Paris online. You don't really need to go there. Of course, I recommend you going there. Paris is beautiful, but what I'm saying is there's nothing new. You already know what to expect. But I didn't really know what to expect from here before coming. And I have the same feeling about Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan. I want to go there. That's why I'm learning Russian, because I'll get by in those countries much better with Russian. I want to go to Transnistria as well. And I really intend to by the end of the year when I come back to Moldova, because I believe that by then I'll have kind of a decent Russian conversational skill. And this brings me much more freedom, much more joy than doing what everybody's doing. So I just want you to think a little bit more about freedom, and if you are actually living a free lifestyle, or if you're just doing whatever everybody else is doing because you think that you have to do what they're doing, because if you don't, you'll be left behind. And when you realize you're spending money that you don't have with things that you don't really want, just because everybody else is doing. And you won't find happiness if you keep doing what people want for your life. You're gonna find happiness when you start doing the things you want for your life. Not what your father wants, your mother wants, society wants, but what you want. And that's what I'm telling you, that will make difference in your life. So if you believe me, and if you give it a try, I bet you will live a happier life. See you on the next video, and make sure to subscribe.